A 42-year-old diver searching for scrap metal near the ghostly remains of an old village off the coast of California made a chilling discovery that has left even seasoned investigators speechless. The village, submerged since a landslide in 1974, had always been a local curiosity, until now. During a routine dive, the man stumbled upon an old refrigerator lodged between coral and collapsed roof tiles. Nothing about it seemed unusual at first, just another relic of a forgotten era. But when he opened the door, expecting rust and emptiness, he froze. What he saw inside was so unexpected, so grotesque, that he surfaced in shock, unable to speak for minutes. When the authorities arrived and confirmed what was inside, their expressions darkened. "This changes everything," one officer whispered. "Would you dare open that door?" Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this one. The sea off the coast of Shelter Cove, California, holds stories most people would rather forget. Among the quiet swells and the occasional call of seagulls, it's easy to miss the fact that an entire village lies beneath the waves, swallowed by a landslide over 50 years ago. People still talk about that stormy night in 1974 when the cliffside gave way, dragging houses, cars, and lives down into the cold embrace of the Pacific. What was left behind became folklore. Some say it's haunted, others say it's cursed. Most just avoid it. But not Nathan Delaney. Nathan, 42, had been diving these waters for over 2 decades. Not professionally. He wasn't a marine biologist or part of any rescue team. Nathan was a scrap diver. He made a living retrieving metal, old artifacts, and the occasional relic valuable enough to sell. Humble, quiet, and solitary, he knew every inch of this coastline, or at least he thought he did. His routine was as predictable as the tides. Early morning coffee from the same diner, a short drive to his dock where his aging but reliable boat, the Minnow's Luck, bobbed gently in the harbor, a gear check, a quiet moment of reflection, and then out into the water. On this particular day, late October, gray skies hanging low and a cool wind slicing off the ocean, he didn't expect to find anything remarkable. Maybe a rusted stove, some weathered cutlery, nothing more. As he descended into the water, the world above disappeared. It was just Nathan and the silence of the deep. He swam over the foundations of what once was Ridgewood Village, a small community obliterated by nature's wrath. Over the years, the ocean had claimed it entirely. Roofs had caved in, walls had crumbled, furniture lay buried under sand and sediment. But every now and then, something new emerged. Storms shifted the ocean floor, unveiling new corners of the past. That's when he saw it. Tucked halfway beneath a collapsed structure, perhaps once a kitchen or a garage, was the unmistakable shape of a refrigerator. It was old, 1960s style, rounded edges, the kind with a latch handle rather than a magnetic seal. Time had dulled its color to a greenish hue, and barnacles clung to its surface like barnyard pests. Most people wouldn't think twice about it, but to Nathan, it was potentially valuable. Appliances from that era, especially in good condition, fetched a decent price. Restorers loved them. At worst, it was a few bucks in scrap metal. He swam closer, brushing off the grime with his gloved hands, revealing a faded General Electric logo on the front. The handle was still intact. Intrigued, he hovered for a moment. Maybe it would be easier to open it down here, see what's inside before hauling the heavy thing up. Sometimes people kept old coins, tools, or even heirlooms in places like this. He tugged on the handle. It resisted, as if the sea had sealed it shut. He gritted his teeth behind the mouthpiece of his scuba mask, braced himself against a stone slab, and pulled again. With a low groan, the door gave way. The moment it cracked open, something felt wrong. A current of colder water flowed out, mixed with something that made Nathan's stomach twist. A dark, oily presence that clouded the water for just a second. Then he saw it. Inside the refrigerator, wedged tightly in the upper compartment, was a shape wrapped in layers of discolored plastic. It looked like an old garbage bag, duct-taped shut. Part of it had degraded, exposing something pale underneath. Then it moved. No, it didn't move. The current had simply shifted the bag slightly. But in that moment, Nathan's breath caught. He leaned in, squinting through his mask, and his heart stopped. It was a face, distorted, bloated, yet disturbingly human. The features had partially decayed but were still visible. Lips, cheeks, strands of hair. One eye, eerily intact, stared back at him from behind the warped plastic. For several seconds, Nathan didn't move. Couldn't move. A soundless scream rang through his mind as his brain struggled to make sense of what he was seeing. Then, panic surged. He kicked away, almost dropping his flashlight. His breathing became erratic, each gasp sounding louder than the ocean itself. As he surfaced, he tore the mouthpiece out and vomited over the side of the boat. Hands trembling, he sat there for minutes, staring at the water, trying to convince himself it was a hallucination, a trick of the light. But deep down, he knew the truth. That was a body, a human body, hidden in a fridge beneath the sea for over 50 years. When he managed to steady himself, he grabbed his radio. "Coast Guard Station, this is Nathan Delaney. I found something. You need to come out here. Now." The reply came seconds later. "What kind of something, Nathan?" "A body, inside a fridge, near the Ridgewood ruins. You're not going to believe this." Within the hour, a boat arrived carrying 3 members of the local sheriff's department and 2 divers from the Marine Response Team. Nathan led them to the coordinates, silently guiding them back to the submerged structure. He didn't dive with them. He couldn't. When the divers resurfaced, their faces were pale. One of them, a woman named Carla with 10 years of underwater recovery experience, removed her gear slowly, as if in shock. "It's real," she said. "There's a body in there, wrapped tight. The fridge is sealed, except that top compartment. Looks like it's been there for decades." The sheriff, a no-nonsense man named Roger Phelps, didn't speak for a long time. He'd grown up in Shelter Cove. He knew the stories. But this was something else. Over the next few days, the area was sealed off. More equipment was brought in. The fridge, carefully extracted and placed in a sealed tank, was transported to a forensic lab in San Francisco. Forensic pathologist Dr. Elena Cruz led the investigation. Her team began the slow, methodical process of thawing the remains and analyzing the clues. The first revelation was that the body had been asphyxiated. There were no signs of trauma, no bullet holes or broken bones, but the plastic had been wrapped around the head tightly, too tightly for it to be accidental. Whoever did this wanted the victim dead and hidden. And that raised the most important question of all. Who was this person? DNA was recovered, and facial reconstruction techniques gave a partial image of the man. Caucasian, late 20s to early 30s, short dark hair. But when cross-checked with missing persons reports from the 1970s and 1980s, there were no matches. Nothing. It was as if the man had never existed. Sheriff Phelps leaned back in his office chair, staring at the composite sketch. How does someone just disappear? No name, no record, no family looking? Nathan, who'd been asked to remain available for questioning, returned several times to the station. He answered everything honestly, though the nightmares had already begun. The face, the eye, the stillness of the fridge. He couldn't shake it. Rumors began to spread. Locals speculated wildly. Some said it was a mob hit. Others believed it was related to the rumored corruption that plagued Ridgewood's leadership back in the day. A few whispered that the man had been a whistleblower, silenced before he could speak. Theories piled up, but facts were few. And there was one more detail, something that chilled Dr. Cruz and her team to the bone. Inside the fridge, taped to the interior wall, was a single Polaroid. Time and water had degraded most of it, but one corner remained intact. It showed a hand, a man's hand, holding up a sign. The only legible word, liar. What did it mean? A warning? A message? And who had taken the picture and placed it with the body? The mystery had only deepened. What do you think happened in that underwater village? Who was the man in the fridge? And why did someone go to such lengths to hide him? Could it have been someone from the village itself? Or was he brought there afterward? Just another secret buried in a town that nature erased? Tell us what you believe in the comments. We read them all. And if this story gave you chills, help us keep diving deeper. Tap the like button, subscribe for more unbelievable true stories, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a mystery. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? In the days following the discovery, the mood in Shelter Cove shifted. A community used to the rhythm of tides and the calm predictability of coastal life was suddenly holding its breath. The Ridgewood landslide had always been a tragic chapter in local history, but until now, it was just that, history. With the fridge and its horrifying contents now sitting under forensic lights, people began to wonder what else the ocean might still be hiding. Nathan tried to go back to his regular routine, but something inside him had changed. His dives became shorter, his movements more mechanical. The sea no longer felt like home. It felt like a graveyard. The police had cleared him of any involvement. He had found the fridge, nothing more, but he couldn't shake the guilt, as if he had disturbed something meant to stay buried. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Cruz was deep into the examination. The head had been expertly wrapped, too clean, too precise. The plastic layers were meticulous, tightly sealed, almost as if vacuum-packed. The facial reconstruction gave them only part of a picture, and despite running the image through national databases again, the same result came back. No match, no dental records, no fingerprints, nothing. What truly puzzled Elena was the condition of the body. Despite being underwater for decades, it had been unusually well preserved. Refrigeration helped, of course, but this was something else. The tissue degradation was minimal. The eyes, although clouded, were still intact. Muscles had retained some elasticity. It didn't add up. Back in Shelter Cove, Sheriff Phelps began digging through old archives. Ridgewood Village hadn't been large, maybe 400 residents at its peak, but its political landscape had been messy. He found articles from the late 60s and early 70s detailing community disputes, zoning conflicts, embezzlement accusations, and rumors of collusion between the town's leadership and private developers. A local paper had run a controversial series of columns in 1973, accusing the Ridgewood mayor of accepting bribes to approve unsafe construction projects on the cliff's edge, the very area that had later collapsed. One name kept surfacing: Walter Brackley. Brackley was a real estate magnate from Los Angeles who had tried, and failed, to buy up Ridgewood land in the early 70s. He'd made enemies in the village council, but no one could pin anything on him. The deal fell through. Months later, the landslide hit. Phelps called Elena. "You ever seen anything like this before?" he asked. She hesitated. "Not quite, but I've got something you need to see." The photo. The Polaroid. She'd managed to enhance the image using lab software, revealing more of the sign the man was holding. Alongside the word liar, 2 more words could now be made out, though only partially. "You made." It wasn't much, but it sounded like a message, a confrontation, a final statement from someone who knew they were about to die, or someone staging a grotesque display to send a warning. Elena's team also found something else. Buried inside the fridge, tucked behind a detached panel in the lower compartment, was a rusted key, wrapped in waxed cloth, tied with a faded string. The key was old, ornate, hand-cut, not something mass-produced. On its bow was an engraving: RM17, Room 17, records, management, a locker. Elena passed the key to Phelps, who stared at it for a long time. Then he remembered something. The old Ridgewood Inn, he murmured, had numbered rooms, only 20 or so. It was built on the north end of town, just before the slide. Some say it was never finished. That might be our RM17. Within hours, a team of divers was dispatched to the location. The north edge of the submerged village was more unstable, but with care and equipment, they navigated through the debris. Eventually, they found it, a collapsed structure with decorative molding still visible, suggesting it was once an upscale building. Inside, down a narrow corridor swallowed by silt and algae, a corroded brass plaque read, 17. It took 3 days to excavate the room without causing a collapse. When they did, what they found was unexpected. Room 17 had been reinforced. The walls were double-lined with concrete, the door steel core. It was less a hotel room and more a vault. Inside was a filing cabinet, bolted to the floor, waterlogged but still intact. The key fit perfectly. Inside the cabinet were stacks of soggy manila folders, film reels, and a locked metal box. Everything was water damaged, but some documents were still readable. One, in particular, stood out. It was a signed letter, dated April 1974, just 1 month before the landslide, written by a man named Marcus Lee. The letter accused the Ridgewood Council of knowingly approving a development plan that compromised the cliff's structural integrity. Marcus claimed to have evidence, blueprints, audio recordings, witness statements. He wrote, "If anything happens to me, the truth is in room 17." Elena read the letter twice, then a third time. "Marcus Lee," she whispered. "That could be our guy." He warned them, and then he disappeared. Sheriff Phelps agreed. And if he was right, this wasn't just a landslide. This was a cover-up. But the question remained, why wasn't Marcus ever reported missing? They found the answer in an old Ridgewood police log, recovered from microfilm archives. A brief note on May 3, 1974, 2 days after the landslide, stated, "Marcus Lee relocated to Los Angeles per neighbor statement. Case closed. No follow-up, no verification, just a dismissal. Convenient." Back in the lab, the contents of the metal box were finally revealed. A single reel of 8mm film. They played it on restored equipment. The footage was grainy, silent, but unmistakable. It showed a meeting, 4 men and a woman, seated around a table. Blueprints were spread before them. The camera panned across their faces, catching names on tags. Mayor Harlan West, developer Walter Brackley, city engineer Paul Adderley. They were discussing the development. One man pointed at the blueprints, gesturing animatedly, while another appeared to shake his head. Then the camera zoomed in on a small section of the blueprint, an area labeled Cliffside Phase B. Scribbled in the margins were the words, "Too unstable. Cancel this." Marcus had filmed them. He had proof they knew. A second clip showed Marcus speaking directly into the camera. His face matched the reconstructed image. "If you're watching this," he said, "then I didn't make it. They're planning to bury this town, figuratively or literally. I've hidden the documents. Room 17. They can't silence the truth forever." The tape ended. The realization hit everyone like a wave. Marcus Lee hadn't just disappeared. He'd been silenced, killed, stuffed into a fridge, and thrown into the sea as the town fell into the ocean. Not to hide his body, but to bury the evidence with him. A last resort from someone who couldn't risk the files being found. But someone had taken extra steps. Someone had returned after the landslide, dug through the wreckage, found Marcus's hiding place, and moved his body, along with the damning letter and key, to ensure it was never found. Until Nathan Delaney showed up 50 years later. Elena turned to Phelps. "What do we do with this?" He didn't answer right away. The implications were huge. This wasn't just a murder, it was a decades-old conspiracy. If proven, it could taint every legacy tied to Ridgewood. Even today, descendants of those involved held power. Local judges, business owners, politicians. That night, Nathan received a call. "We need you to come in," Phelps said. "There's something else we found, something we can't explain." Nathan, reluctant but curious, returned to the lab. Elena showed him the final item retrieved from the fridge. It hadn't seemed important at first. A small ceramic medallion, barely larger than a coin. On it was etched a series of symbols, some kind of seal, with an eye at the center and Latin around the edge. Nathan squinted. "What is that?" "No idea," Elena replied. "But it's not from any known organization." And it was taped behind Marcus's head, hidden in the insulation. Almost like a signature. Nathan stepped back. "I've seen that before," he said quietly. "Where?" "There's a man," Nathan said. "Lives in the hills north of town. Real old. People call him the archivist. Claims to know the Ridgewood secrets. Everyone thinks he's crazy. But that symbol, it's carved into his front door." Elena and Phelps exchanged glances. Then maybe it's time we paid him a visit. The door had been opened. But the true story had only begun to rise from the depths. The drive to the hills above Shelter Cove took just under an hour. But the atmosphere shifted long before the road ended. The forest here was dense, quieter than it should have been, as if the trees themselves held their breath. Mist clung to the underbrush even though the sun was out, casting long, wavering shadows across the winding dirt path. Nathan sat in the passenger seat of Sheriff Phelps's SUV, silent, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. Behind them, Elena Cruz checked her recorder and notes, every detail of the fridge case filed with precision in her memory. At the end of the path stood a cabin, wooden, overgrown with ivy and moss, its shingles warped from time and storm. Nailed to the heavy front door was the same ceramic medallion they had found behind Marcus Lee's head. The eye, the Latin, the seal of something no one could identify. Phelps knocked once, then again. Nothing. Then the door creaked open, not from the inside, but from the breeze, or perhaps something else. Nathan stepped forward cautiously. "He doesn't usually let anyone in." "Who is he really?" Elena asked. Nathan hesitated. People call him the archivist. His real name's Wesley Coombs. Used to be a professor. History, anthropology. Taught in San Francisco in the 60s. Something happened. Some scandal, I think. He disappeared, and next thing anyone knew, he'd moved out here. Been living alone for decades. They stepped into the cabin. The air inside was thick with dust and incense. Stacks of old books lined every wall. Scrolls, yellowed papers, framed maps of the California coast, some modern, some centuries old. In the center of the room, surrounded by relics and artifacts, sat Wesley Coombs. He looked ancient, white beard reaching his chest, eyes sharp despite the deep-set wrinkles around them. He didn't seem surprised to see them. "You brought the medallion," he said. Not a question, a statement. "Yes," Elena replied. "We found it in a submerged fridge, behind the head of a murdered man." Coombs nodded slowly. "Then it has begun." Phelps narrowed his eyes. "What has?" "The unsealing," Coombs said. "The return of what was buried. Ridgewood's fall was no accident. Marcus Lee tried to stop it. They silenced him, but the curse lingered. That seal, what you found, is the mark of the alvearium." Elena frowned. "The what?" Coombs's fingers tapped slowly on the armrest of his chair. The alvearium was a covert society, mid-century, formed by developers, bankers, and officials. They operated quietly, shifting land, laundering money through projects like Ridgewood. But it was more than greed. They believed in something ancient, something buried. "You're saying they worshipped something?" Phelps asked, incredulous. "Not worship," Coombs said softly. "They believed Ridgewood sat atop a vein of knowledge, a conduit to an older civilization. They built the town as a cover, but when Marcus Lee found out what they were really doing, what they were excavating, he threatened everything." "What were they excavating?" Elena asked. Coombs looked directly at her. "A vault, a chamber predating any known settlement. The villagers never knew, only the council, only those sworn to the seal." Nathan stepped back. "You mean there's something else down there?" Coombs nodded. "And now it wants to be found." Despite the absurdity of the claim, there was something in Coombs's voice, calm, measured, devoid of theatrics, that made them all pause. "You said Marcus Lee was murdered to keep him quiet," Elena said. "But how do you know all this?" Coombs leaned forward. "Because I was one of them." The silence that followed was suffocating. "I was recruited in 1971, he continued, brought in as a historian to validate their claims. I thought it was nonsense at first, but then I saw the maps, the artifacts, the chamber. When I realized what they were trying to awaken, I ran. I came here. I've been hiding ever since." Phelps pressed. "What's in the chamber?" Coombs shook his head. "I don't know, but they called it the Ark beneath the sea. Said it held the origin of something powerful. Not a weapon, not quite. More like a blueprint." Nathan suddenly remembered something. A dive he'd done years ago near the base of the Ridgewood slope. He'd seen strange stonework, carvings, thought they were just coral illusions. But what if? Coombs stood slowly and handed them a weathered folder. Inside were old photos, sketches, and handwritten notes. Diagrams of a chamber beneath Ridgewood. A structure, circular, sunken, and sealed. "I believe Marcus hid more than files," Coombs said. "I think he hid the entrance." They left the cabin in a fog of disbelief, yet no one spoke of turning back. They had come too far, and deep down, they all knew. Something still waited beneath the sea. Back at the lab, Elena reviewed the folder. One of the sketches showed a symbol etched above the supposed chamber door, a triangle with an eye at the center, surrounded by waves. Another showed coordinates. When compared to modern sonar maps of the area, they matched a depression in the ocean floor, an area never explored due to rock instability. They sent out a team. The dive took place at dawn in absolute silence. The divers descended through cloudy waters, past Ridgewood's wreckage to the coordinates. And there it was, a stone ring, half buried in silt, carved with the same symbols as the medallion. At the center, a circular hatch sealed shut. No hinges, no handle, just grooves, like an enormous dial. They didn't open it, not yet. Back at the surface, the footage was reviewed by Elena and Phelps. "We have to get a team in there," she said. But Phelps was hesitant. "And do what? Wake up whatever they buried?" Elena leaned back. "We already have. Marcus Lee's body was the key. His death, his message, It started the unraveling. We can't walk away now. Nathan stood in the doorway, silent. Then he stepped forward, pulling something from his bag. It was another medallion. I found this in my boat, he said. This morning. I didn't put it there. They all stared at him. You think someone's watching us? Phelps asked. I think, Nathan said slowly, someone's making sure we finish what Marcus started. The next phase was inevitable. Permits were expedited, funding secured. Officially, it was an underwater archaeology mission. Unofficially, it was something far more dangerous. They returned to the site with a full crew: divers, marine engineers, sonar technicians. Using specialized tools, they began clearing the debris around the stone hatch. It was harder than expected. The stone resisted their equipment, almost as if it was absorbing impact, but slowly they made progress. Then something happened. The moment the final layer of silt was cleared, the hatch began to vibrate, just slightly. A low hum filled the water. Instruments flickered, lights dimmed. One diver surfaced in a panic. Something's moving down there, inside. But it was too late. The hatch turned, silently, effortlessly, and opened. Inside was darkness, deeper than the ocean. A tunnel sloped downward, lined with carvings unlike anything seen before. Angular, non-human, like a language designed to be felt rather than read. They sent in a probe, equipped with lights and a camera. The feed returned images of a vast chamber. At its center, a structure, metallic but pulsating with faint light. Not man-made, not explainable. Then the signal cut out, and the hum began again, louder, resonating through the water, the boats, the shore. Back at the lab, Coombs watched the footage in silence. Then he spoke one word: opened. Now the question no one wants to ask hangs in the air. What exactly have we released? And why did Marcus Lee try so hard to keep it buried? What do you think is inside the chamber? Leave your theory in the comments. Was it a lost technology? A secret power? Or something not of this world? If you're as intrigued as we are, be sure to like this video, subscribe for more stories like this one, and click the bell so you don't miss what happens next. You won't believe what comes next. Stay with us. The chamber's opening marked the point of no return. What had begun as a routine dive by a quiet man seeking scrap metal had now evolved into something much larger, something ancient, hidden, and disturbingly alive. Word of the discovery leaked despite official efforts to contain it. Soon, whispers of a gateway beneath the sea began circulating in obscure forums and conspiracy websites. But those closest to the mystery knew the truth was far more complex and far more dangerous. The probe's last transmission showed the chamber's core, a metallic structure, neither solid nor fluid, seemingly pulsing with energy. But there were details easily missed in the initial footage. Embedded within the chamber walls were niches, small alcoves, each holding objects that looked eerily like urns, tablets, and in one case, bones. Not human, not animal, something else entirely. Limbs too thin, skulls too elongated. Whatever civilization or entity had created this place, it wasn't from any known chapter of human history. Sheriff Phelps, hardened by decades of law enforcement, found himself hesitating for the first time in his career. He stared at the footage with a growing sense of dread. "We need to close it," he said. "We shouldn't have opened it." Elena, meanwhile, was drawn in further. Her scientific mind couldn't resist the questions. How had it survived down there for so long? Who built it? And more urgently, what was it doing now? Because something had changed. The ocean around Shelter Cove began behaving differently. Boats reported strange electrical interference. Sonar pulses returned distorted images, often twisted or layered with ghost echoes. A trawler's compass spun violently for 2 full minutes without explanation. Most chilling of all, several divers reported hearing sounds inside their helmets, voices speaking in languages they couldn't understand, yet somehow felt familiar. One diver, shaken and pale, surfaced and said, "It knows we're here." On the third day, after the chamber opened, the hum intensified. Instruments on the research vessels recorded a sudden spike in electromagnetic energy. Sea life began fleeing the area. Schools of fish moving as if driven by panic, seals vanishing from the shoreline. Even the birds avoided flying overhead. Then came the storm. It formed out of nothing. Clear skies turned black in minutes. Waves towered higher than ever recorded in Shelter Cove's history. Winds howled with unnatural precision, striking only the coordinates around the dive site. Those on the boats rushed to evacuate. One vessel capsized, though thankfully the crew survived. Back at the lab, Elena was reviewing the chamber footage frame by frame when she noticed something. In one of the final stills, the camera panned across the far wall of the chamber, revealing a mural. Painted or perhaps etched in luminescent material was a depiction of 5 human figures standing in front of a massive door. One held a medallion, the same symbol found with Marcus Lee. The others held tools. Below them, etched in strange but decipherable characters, was an English translation scratched in like a warning added later. "Do not unseal. The Watcher sleeps." Elena sat back. Her blood ran cold. Marcus hadn't just stumbled upon corruption. He'd uncovered an ancient warning, one that someone at some point had understood well enough to translate and try to bury. Nathan couldn't sleep. Dreams of cold corridors, of floating silently in the chamber's dark waters, plagued his nights. He often awoke gasping, certain he'd heard someone whispering from within the waves. Then, the real break came. Coombs called them to his cabin once more. He'd found something, a journal, hidden in his own archives, forgotten for decades. It was Marcus Lee's. In it, Marcus detailed every moment leading up to his disappearance, his investigations, his meetings, his discovery of the chamber, and his attempts to warn others. But the final entry was the most disturbing. "They came last night, Brackley and 2 others. They gave me a choice, forget what I saw or disappear. I told them the chamber can't be opened, not ever. They laughed, said it was already happening. I've hidden the key and I've recorded everything. If you're reading this, I'm likely dead, but don't stop. They think the sea will bury the truth. Let it rise." Nathan read the entry aloud. The room was silent when he finished. Elena made her decision. "We seal it, we document everything, and then we shut it forever." The team returned one last time. Divers descended with reinforced panels and polymer sealants designed for deep-sea containment. They worked for hours, placing barriers across the opening, but as they moved, the chamber seemed to resist. The walls pulsed faintly. Equipment malfunctioned. At one point, a diver vanished, only to reappear moments later, drifting unconscious from a tunnel none of them had explored. Then came the sound. Low, resonant, like a bell struck miles below. It shook the equipment, vibrated the water, cameras flickered, and then silence. The hum stopped. The chamber dimmed. The sea calmed. They finished the seal, welded it shut with reinforced alloys, placed sonar markers warning any future explorers to stay away. As the team surfaced for the last time, a wave of eerie calm settled over the cove. Birds returned. The fish came back. Even the air felt lighter. The chamber had been closed, but the question lingered. Had they stopped something, or merely delayed it? Weeks passed. The story faded from headlines. Officials called it a geological anomaly, citing natural gas vents and tectonic instability. The fridge was never mentioned publicly. Marcus Lee's name, absent from all public records, remained unspoken. But Elena, Nathan, and Phelps knew better. The body had been found. The seal had been broken, and the sea, for now, had fallen silent again. Nathan returned to his routine but never dove near Ridgewood again. Elena continued her work, but kept Marcus's journal hidden in her private archive. Sheriff Phelps retired 6 months later. He moved inland. As for Coombs, he disappeared. One night, his cabin was found empty, his books scattered, and the medallion missing from his door. No one knows where he went, but some nights, when the wind howls just right over Shelter Cove, you can still hear it. A faint hum, too low for the ear, but deep enough to shake the soul. And beneath the waves, the chamber waits, closed, but never forgotten. And you, what do you think was really inside that ancient vault? Was Marcus Lee murdered to protect a land deal, or to silence something far older, far darker? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your theory. Was it man-made, or was something else guiding those hands? If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like the video, leave your thoughts below, and most importantly, subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment of mystery. Because out there, beneath the quiet surface of our world, stories like this are still waiting to be uncovered, and we'll be here to tell them.